let's start about the aquatic habitats. We have seen habitats, the adaptations, the terrestrial habitats and the beautiful features which the animals have adapted to survive in the land, on the land. And now we are going to see today how the organisms survive in the water, in the aquatic habitats. We have seen fishes, right? How are the fishes adapted to survive in water? We saw they have a streamlined body, they can swim very easily. We saw about the scales and the fins, everything. But what about squids and octopus? They are not streamlined, right? So in aquatic habitats, first we are seeing ocean. If you see an ocean, you will find fish. We saw the adaptations of fish already. Then squids are there, octopus are there. They are not streamlined shape. So what can they do? So what do? They do not come to the surface. Okay. They stay near the seabed. They stay down. And they capture the prey who come towards them. If they have to swim, they manage their body, they transform their body into a streamlined shape. So this is an octopus. When it has to swim, the octopus actually streamlines its body. Okay? Kind of streamlining it does so that it can easily swim. And along with this, you know, if you have seen whales or dolphins, let me just show you. So we saw fish, smaller, larger fishes. We saw squids and octopus. Now there are some fishes like dolphins and whales. There is a spatial adaptation in them. The normal fishes, they do respiration with the gills. They have gills with which they absorb the oxygen. But dolphins and whales, they do not have gills. So they cannot take the oxygen through gills, but they have to survive. They have to do respiration. Without respiration, they are not going to survive. So in these animals, this kind of structure is found. Okay. It is called nostrils or blowholes. Nostrils or blowholes. So here you can see a hole at the mid of the dolphin. So dolphin comes to the surface to breathe, and inside the water it can live for longer time without breathing. Okay, so without breathing it can stay for a long time, and when it has to breathe, it again comes up and breathes, exchanges the air with the surroundings through the blowholes or the nostrils. So these are the adaptations in the ocean. Let's see something about the ponds and lakes next. So the next, so students, we are seeing the second aquatic habitat, which are ponds and lakes. If you have observed the plants in ponds and lakes, you will see different kind of plants. Okay, some plants have their roots fixed into the soil below the pond. Some plants are completely inside the pond, while there are some other plants which are just floating like this. So generally on the terrestrial habitats where the plants are growing on the land, the roots have a very important function to absorb the water and minerals, right? But these plants are completely inside water. They do not have any lack of water. So in these plants, the main function of root is to hold the plant. The holding is the most important function for these plants. So there are some plants whose roots are completely embedded in the soil below the pond, and the stem grows till the surface. Stem grows till the surface. It is hollow, it is light, and the leaves and the flowers are floating on the surface. Okay. Then there are some other plants which are always inside the water. They are completely submerged. So in these plants, the leaves are generally divided so that they can easily flow in the stream of water, right? They should not block the flow of water. So there are gaps between the leaves are divided kind of, so that the water can easily flow. There is always exchange of water between two areas. And there are some other plants where the roots are in the water, they just give support and the leaves and everything is floating in the on the water, right? And you know, the organisms like frogs which are found in the ponds, these frogs have webbed feet so that they can swim. The frogs can live both on the land and in water, and their respiration varies according to where they live. So when they are on land, they use the lungs for breathing, but when they are in water, they are using their skin for breathing. So this way the animals are surviving in the pond and lakes. The fishes are surviving through their gills, and other features we have already seen. So I just talked about the plants here. Now students, we have seen 2-3 kinds of terrestrial habitats. We have also seen the aquatic habitats. So we are talking about living organisms in this chapter. So let's try to think how to differentiate between the living and the non-living organisms. What are the characteristics of living organisms? Do they have special features which makes them living? So let's try to dive more into that. Okay, so we are going to see the next topic, which is the characteristics of living organisms, which is the second half of this chapter. So when we talk about the living organisms, the first thing which comes to your mind is maybe they are walking, they are moving, right? The things which move are living organisms. But is that completely true? The plants do not move, but they are living. On the other hand, the cars and the buses and the trucks are moving, but they are non-living, right? So how do you actually differentiate between the living and non-living? There are certain characteristics which you have to observe. The first one will be they need food. Every living organism on this earth has to take food. Okay, so the first one is living organisms need food. So when we talk about the plants, they do not eat, I know, but they prepare their food by the photosynthesis, which is then continuously going on to different levels, right? We and the herbivores, they are eating the plants, the carnivores are eating the herbivores, and the omnivores are eating both the herbivores and the carnivores. So all the living organisms, they need food, plants or animals. The second thing is all the living organisms do respiration. So whether it is a plant or an animal or a human, we breathe oxygen. We breathe in oxygen, right? And then this oxygen, by the process of respiration, is converted to energy finally. So respiration includes breathing of the oxygen and that utilizing this oxygen to generate energy. Respiration is a very, very important feature of the organisms. The third point is they all grow. All the living organisms will grow in size, right? You might remember any of your shirt or a pant which was fitting to you 3-4 years back, but not now. You might not realize, but you are growing every day, bit by bit, right? You are growing also a plant which you plant as a sapling. You will see how it grows, starts giving flowers and fruits. So all the living organisms, they grow. You might have observed the pups which transform into an adult, egg which hatches and gives birth to a chick, and then it becomes a hen or a cock. So all the living organisms are growing. On the other hand, if you think about a car or a scooter or a bus, they are not growing. They are the same always, years after years, right? So living organisms grow. The fourth thing is living organisms respond to a stimulus. I will tell you what is a stimulus. Respond to a stimulus or a stimuli. The plural is stimuli. When it is a singular, it is a stimulus. Stimulus is any action, anything which makes you give a reaction, right? For example, you are walking and all of a sudden you are pricked by a thorn. You are walking barefoot, you are pricked by a thorn. So you are going to feel the pain and take out your leg. That is the thorn is the stimulus. So you are going to respond to that, right or no? When you see a delicious food, you feel something in your mouth, right? You feel salivating, you want to eat that. So that is a response to the stimulus of the delicious food. So all the living organisms respond to the stimuli. Plants also respond to stimuli. The roots, how do they know? They have to go down because they respond to the stimulus of gravity. They go towards the gravity. The stem, it always goes towards the direction of the sun. The sunlight is the stimulus. Okay, so all the living organisms, plants, animals and humans, they respond to the stimulus. So there are 4 major characteristics which living organisms have. They need food, they do respiration, and they all grow and they respond to the stimulus. So we have seen 4 features till now, right? Now we are going to see the 5th one, which is reproduction, right? All the living organisms reproduce. So the animals are going to give rise to other smaller animals of their species. The humans are going to give rise to give birth to their kids. The plants will also give birth to the new plants. So reproduction is very important feature of all the living organisms. Then comes the excretion. All of them are eating. As I said, they all are taking food. So obviously, like we have to excrete the waste materials, all the living organisms do the excretion. The excretion in plants is quite different. They excrete in the form of some secretions. Also, some plants find out a way to store the waste materials in themselves in a way that it does not harm the plant. Okay, and then the final one is the last one is movement, which we talked about the first, right? So living organisms, they move from one place to another. If we talk about plants, plants do not move from one place to another, but there is movement. You might have seen the opening and closing of flowers, right? The movement of root towards gravity, the movement of stem towards the sun, the movement of the branches to spread and make the plant more bushy. So all this is movement, different types of movement in the plants. And we all know that animals do move also. So these are the characteristics of the living organism, students, which are very, very important. You all must be able to write some lines about all of these characteristics. So we end this chapter here. We are done with all the topics, right? So I'll just recap what did we see in this chapter. We saw about the habitat, the different types of habitat, terrestrial and aquatic. We saw what are the adaptations for a terrestrial habitat, what are the adaptations for an aquatic habitat, and then we saw the characteristics of the living organisms. So there are 7 characteristics which we have seen, and we are done with this chapter. I hope you have all understood every topic in details. Thank you. Bye.